Okay, boss. We're going to start with performance tuning now. So when you say performance tuning, you deal with two things. One is query performance and loading performance. So as part of query performance, we deal with what are the different approaches we need to take in to improve the performance of the query. As part of loading, you decide on what is that we need to take in to improve the performance of loading those. First is query performance. So before we get on to tuning the query, we need to understand what is a query execution process. How does my query get executed in the back? You're just running in, you're seeing results now. What does it do in the backend to get the results for you? Now look at this. So this is your cube, okay, with customer number, metal number, revenues, and quantities, and dummy counter like 1111. And I'll have something called overlap processor. This is your analytical engine. This is an engine which actually understands your query and executes it. Okay. In the front end, you'll have Beck's query designer where you're designing your query bus. Let's say you design your query in the query designer with some customer number into the rows and revenue into columns. Then when you fire a query, it first sends a request to overlap processor. Then overlap processor will have something called overlap cache. Then overlap processor checks whether do we have the query results already in the cache. Okay, if it's there, it takes it from there. Otherwise, it redirects the query onto the database and then selects the data from the database to the overlap processor. When you say customer and revenue, it's execute select customer and revenue from the cube. It will basically select these 4 records and select it and takes it to what? Overlap processor. And in the overlap processor, it executes those aggregation functions. Now, when it aggregates these measures, will it do group by function? Say select sum of revenue, group by customer. So these 4 records are sent to overlap processor, but in the overlap processor, the 4 records are aggregated to become what? 2 records. And when it's aggregating, it ante 100 idantha mugguru same customer got 100 to 3 add అయిపోయి 600 300 400 200 it will formulate 2 records here, places a copy in the cache and then sends those 2 records to front end, and then in the front end the records are formatted as per the template and then shown to the user. Okay, so it actually spends some time in the database layer, it spends some time in the overlap processor, it spends some time in the front end. So the time spent at the database level we call that as DB time. The time spent by the overlap processor we call that as overlap time, and the time spent by the front end design for formatting we call that as front end time. Now can I say total time taken by the query is what? DB time plus overlap time plus front end time. All these 3 together is your the time taken by the query bus. So I would say, and one more, you know about this DB time, overlap time, front end time now. All these 3 add up to total time taken by the query. And one more thing is, you should know one more parameter called aggregation ratio, because based on this factor we decide whether to do this or not. Okay, that's going to be a deciding factor to do certain query performance activities. Aggregation ratio ante number of records selected from the database divided by number of records stored in the front end. In the previous example, how many records did I read from database? 4. And how many records am I sending to front end? 2. So aggregation is 4 by 2 is 2. And more the aggregation ratio, we still can do lots of stuff to improve performance. Like imagine I have 1 million transactions in a queue for customer C100 was, and I'm running a report for C100. How many records will it read from the queue? 1 million. But how many records will it show in the front end? 1. Is it spending a lot of time in the aggregation? Does it take a lot of time in the overlap processor? Logically, if you think in, yeah. So what I'll do, I'll store my data in the cube such a way that I'll aggregate the data for customer and then store it. So when I aggregate at the database layer, it will be storing a single record in the cube, and then when it reads single record. Overlap processor doesn't do nothing. The same record is sent. Will you see difference in the performance of the query? Alant only particular. Okay, boss. Let's not. No. Thing is that how do we check the present either before or after tuning? We have to see the timing of the query, right? How much time does my query take in? What is it, right? So one way of seeing the timing of the queries with RSRT is one option. I'll show you. మనకు బాగా డేటా సరే నేను చూడండి ఒక క్యూబ్లో బాగా డేటా పెట్టింటాం బస్ ఏడబ్ల్యూ సేల్స్ ఏదో డిలీట్ చేసినట్టున్నారు కదా. బాగంటే ఇది కూడా ఎక్కువేం కాదు. there is some set of data in it. So I would like to do some query on this, and then let's see what is the problem for that query. ఓకే, మీరు ఈ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ మీరు చూసారు కదా, ఏడబ్ల్యూ సేల్స్ అని ఫస్ట్లో చూసినాం. దెర్ ఆర్ 2 lakh రికార్డ్స్, బట్ సేల్స్ అని రెండే ఉన్నాయి, వెబ్, ఆన్లైన్, రీటైల్ రెండే ఉన్నాయి. గుడ్. అండ్ సేల్స్ అమౌంట్, సో దట్ ఐ కెన్ సీ అగ్రిగేషన్ రేషియో 2 lakhs డివైడ్ బై 2 అని ఆ రేంజ్లో చూడవచ్చు అన్నట్టు. So what I'll do, I'll touch all the performance tuning topics, but there are something which are no more required when it comes to దాన్ని కొద్ది లైట్గా వెళ్తాం. ఓకే, this is my query. Okay, so I have not run this query even once. Means what? Will it have data in the cache? No, it's going to get from the database first. So one way of looking at this timing and the ratio, నాకు 4 కావాలి. ఆ డేటాబేస్ టైం ఎంత పడింది, ఓలాప్ టైం ఎంత పడింది, ఫ్రంట్ ఎండ్ టైం ఎంత పడింది, ఆ డిమాండ్ రేషియో ఎంత పడింది చూడాలి. జరుగుతాం కదా, పెట్టలేదా? జరుగుతుంది. So give the query name, HTML, anything output. Okay, and say what? Execute. Don't say execute. Say execute plus debug. Okay, and here you have an option display statistics. Show me all the you're running a query, all the statistics I would like to see of this query, and preferably I would say do not use cache. Cache varthe katha vere ayipotadu. So I would like to see pure statistics without leveraging cache. Okay, so okay. So you get some results out. Okay, and then say back. Okay, and it shows you 2 tabs. One is front end layer with detailed events, and అంటే ఇక్కడ ఏమంటే ఒక్కొక్క మళ్ళీ దాంట్లో ఒక్కొక్క స్టెప్ చూపిస్తాను. నాకు అది అవసరం లేదు. I go to what? Aggregation layer tab. Here it tells me this was a query which was run in. It was reading data from which provider was? AWS 01. Go towards right. There's something, what is read time? So 1.84 seconds. It was a time taken to read data from the database. OLAP and don't worry. If you go here, go to records. What is this? Selected 2,09,800, and records transported and transferred on it. So demand aggregation is 2 lakhs divided by 2, 1 lakh. That is where in RSRT you can get this statistic. What is my complete read time? We worry about this one, 1.84 read time, database time, and records read from the database and 2 records processed. Suppose if I can reduce this to anyhow showing 2 records, if I can reduce this 2 lakh records to 2 records and store, will this go down? Obviously the time taken to read data from 2 lakhs or 2 records, will it be different? That is how we have to catch out of it. Okay, boss. like this you can see the timing of the query. This is one mechanism of doing it. And other don't worry about all this. These all are outdated now. Others is there is something called technical content. What SAP does is it does store data into all the statistics into some tables. Okay? And what is done is based on all those tables they've created ready-made extractors, ready-made data sources, ready-made update rules, transformations, ready-made cubes, ready-made multiplot. Everything is all given. If you install the complete, we call that technical content. If you install the technical content and there are some ready-made reports which can show you the same data what you've seen, DB time, number of records read, అవి చూపించడు రెడీమేడ్ క్వెరీస్ ఇచ్చేసాం. అర్థమైందన్న. వేర్ డస్ ఈ స్టోర్ అంటే ఈ యాక్చువల్లీ స్టోర్స్ ఆల్ ద స్టాటిస్టిక్స్ ఇంటూ ఆర్ఎస్డిడి స్టాట్ అనేది కొన్ని టేబుల్స్ ఉంటాయి. అదొక టేబుల్. ఇఫ్ యూ సే స్టార్ ఇలా లాట్స్ ఆఫ్ టేబుల్ ఆర్ఎస్డిడి స్టాట్ డిఎం, RSD stat అంటే డేటా మేనేజ్మెంట్, ఓలాప్ ఫ్రంట్ ఎండ్ రిపోర్టింగ్ స్టాటిస్టిక్స్ అట్లా లాట్స్ ఆఫ్ RSD స్టాట్ టేబుల్స్ ఉంటాయి. ఇన్ దిస్ టేబుల్స్ ఇట్ స్టార్ట్ స్టోరింగ్ ఆల్ ది స్టాటిస్టిక్స్ ఆఫ్ యువర్ క్వరీస్, ప్రాజెక్ట్ చేంజ్, అన్ని స్టాటిస్టిక్స్ దీంట్లోనే ఉంటాయి ఈ టేబుల్స్లో. ఏం చేస్తున్నాడంటే వాడు రెడీమేడ్ ఎక్స్ట్రాక్ట్ వాడు ఏం చేస్తాడు ఈస్ గివెన్ సమ్ రెడీమేడ్ బిజినెస్ కంటెంట్. ఓకే, ఆ బిజినెస్ కంటెంట్ వాట్ ఈస్ డన్ ఈస్ గివెన్ ready-made data sources to extract data from those tables and create transformations are ready-made, cubes are ready-made, virtual cubes are ready-made, multiplot is ready-made, everything is given. You just have to install, and queries also have been given. I'll say grouping in data flow before and after. When I say before and after, it collects data before and afterwards also, objects. And I'm going to collect a multiplot 0 TCT underscore MC10. పేరు ఏంది, సరే 0 BWTC అండర్స్కోర్ C10. C10. This BW statistics is a multiplot, ready-made multiplot built on లాట్స్ ఆఫ్ క్యూబ్స్, లాట్స్ ఆఫ్ వర్చువల్ క్యూబ్స్ ఇంటూ డేటాస్ అన్నీ ఉంటాయి అన్నమాట. ఇంకా కొన్ని కొత్త వర్షన్లో 0 TCT C01 అండి. కలెక్ట్ దిస్ ఫస్ట్. ఇట్ కలెక్ట్స్ లాట్ అంటే ఇన్స్టాల్ ఏం చేయను, కలెక్ట్ చేస్తే నీకు తెలుస్తుంది ఏమేమి ట్రాన్స్ఫర్మేషన్స్ ఉన్నాయి, ఏం డేటా సోర్సులు ఉన్నాయి, ఏం క్యూబ్లు ఉన్నాయి. అండ్ విత్ 7.3 ఈస్ గివెన్ సమ్ న్యూ టెక్నికల్ కంటెంట్ ఆల్సో. కొత్త క్యూబ్స్, కొత్త వర్చువల్ క్యూబ్స్ ఇచ్చినాడు. బిజినెస్ కంటెంట్ స్టాటిస్టిక్స్ ఎక్స్పాండ్, దాంట్లో ఉన్న క్యూబులు చూడు, ఓలాప్ క్యూబ్ ఒక 6 క్యూబులు ఉన్నాయి. ఒక్కొక్క క్యూబ్ ఎక్స్పాండ్ చేస్తే దానికి సంబంధించిన అప్డేట్ రూల్స్, ఇన్ఫో సోర్స్, దానికి సంబంధించిన కమ్యూనికేషన్ స్ట్రక్చర్, ట్రాన్స్ఫర్ రూల్స్, దాన్ని ఎక్స్పాండ్ చేసుకుంటూ వెళ్తే సో డేటా సోర్స్ కూడా ఇచ్చినాడు బస్ రెడీగా. He has given ready-made data sources, everything has been given. You just have to install the complete content, and then there are some ready-made reports now. Utilizing OLAP per query in main query. This will give you DB time, the number of records read from database. Others say whatever you could see in the backend, you get to see more organized BIX reports you can see. So if you install this from the business current, if you install, then they start giving you those data from the statistics. Okay. And one option is, you install those cubes and start loading, but you don't get the statistics for your queries because I need to enable my system to collect statistics of my queries on my cube. Then only they collect statistics. Yeah. So you go to the tools menu. What is settings for BW statistics? Okay, and then go to provider. What is your cube? select your cube. Okay, you want the statistics should be switched on. I want aggregated data or all detailed. Okay, I'll say aggregated data, and so you see this statistics DN on the default statistics. I'm going to switch and click on the button. Select your cube. Select your cube and set the settings and say what? Replace settings. Now look at this. Do you see it as N? Okay, good. Now it's been switched on. Now when you start running query, it starts collecting the statistics into statistics tables, and when you load data to the business critical, they start getting the data. Okay. See, you get to see like you got ready-made data sources, info source, queues, multiple the reports. Utilization overlap report per query per cube, mean time of the query. These are the main reports which we use it to analyze query performances majorly. Okay. Because we would install it, but now this again gets outdated with HANA because because while migrating to HANA, they're deleting entire data and then creating it. But this is still valid. RSRT is always, because normally when you get an issue from a user point of view, he raises a ticket saying this query performance is bad. Do you say that I need to collect statistics for 1 month? Then I'll tell you no. Straight away will go to RSRT, run the query, check the statistics, and start acting on top of it. Yeah. So these are the steps. But this is no more useful here. Now. This is important. Okay, let's say you run with RSRT, you could find the DB time, you could find that overlap. 0.00 the overlap was not much. But if you see the query taking more time with the DB time, what approaches you need to follow? If you see the query is taking more time with the overlap processor, then what considerations have to be done? If it is front end, what considerations have to be done? That's the point. Ante if the query is spending more time at the database, reading from database, then I need to do all this. If it is overlap time, I need to do all this. If it is front end time, I need to do all this. Okay. So for DB, there are some options would be common for all the three. Yeah. Like say modeling aspects common all the three, query design aspects all the three, common. Modeling aspects, I mean to say, while doing modeling in the backend, there are certain strategies which you can consider to take care of the performance of the query bus. Okay. Again, next one is the query design. While designing the query itself, we can consider some points to make sure the performance of the query is better. Okay. And then we'll have concepts like compressions, then using aggregates, then partitioning of a cube, read mode of the queries, pre-calculated web templates, line item dimension, indexes. Yeah, all this can be used. If it is overlap time, we'll have modeling aspects. Again, overlap cache, aggregates. Yeah. And compressions again can be leveraged. Front-end time more majorly on the formatting and majorly on the network capabilities and majorly on the client hardware bus. Okay. So we'll get into each of this topic one by one. Then modeling aspects. Now tell me, can you do reporting on ODS? Can you do reporting on cube? Now which is more performance? Which gives you more performance? Cube gives you more, the performance of the cube is much better than ODS bus. But now with HANA coming in, this point is ruled out. HANA goes cube and the cube will go better on it. It will be all ODS objects bus. ODS is kotta type object, advanced DSO or small classic DSO, it's still there. Okay. Class lo noppa. చేస్తున్నా క్లాస్లో ఉన్నానప్ప చేస్తాను 5 నిమిషాలు హాఫ్ అన్ అవర్. So deciding about whether reporting should be done on cube or ODS also makes sense. Okay. As of BW with non-HANA database, performance of the cube is much better when compared to performance of ODS objects because of the schema in the backend. But once HANA comes in, what they say is we don't have stored data in any detail. With the performance on the ODS or the cube is almost the same, no differences. So we can eliminate cubes, straight away do reporting on ODS object. Only one concept. But customers with non-HANA database still have to do reporting on cube preferably. Okay. And one more thing what they try to do is they also do this way. When they're extracting data from some source, they load into ODS with more detailed data. And while loading from ODS to cube, they try to load cube only with aggregated information. Because if the data is detailed, obviously it will increase the granularity. For example, I store details with only customer in a cube. So when I compress, it will store with only customer details. But if I say customer and the product, then for each combination it will compress, right? So more and more infobix we have, the data becomes more detailed and increases granularity. I would like to store all the transactions of a sales executive center. Sales executive number value. If I say I would like to store sales executive, so for sales executive on a particular day wise I want to know, will it increase combinations? My granularity is what? Day wise. If I say sales executive year wise granularity. If I sales executive year, that month lo, week lo, a week lo, a day lo, mali oka day lo hour kante nama granularity is what? Hour level. So as and when you keep increasing granularity, will it increase the combinations in the cube? It becomes more detailed. So with non-HANA database, what we used to do is we used to make it ODS when detailed, but when it gets into the cube, we used to load only with the infobix what we actually wanted for reporting. So that when you load certain data with same characteristic combination, will it aggregate while loading itself? Let's say I've got a ODS with C1, M1, C1, M2 with some 10 and 20, and I've got a cube only with customer because I would like to store more with aggregated format. So only with customer, then what happens? If I load these two records, will it aggregate these two records as one record into my cube at the time of loading? Because request ID is same and customer is also same, so it says C1 as what? 30. So when I reduce my infobix in the cube, it becomes more detailed, more aggregated of us. We used to do that. But they say, if you're using cube for aggregated purpose, eliminate it and do reporting on ODS because HANA can handle even detailed level also. That's the point. But this point is still valid if it is non-HANA database. Store detailed in DSO, but in the cube try to store more aggregated data, what we actually want for analysis, and then do reporting on top of it. Okay, now fine. That's what, aggregate the data in info as much as possible. Okay, good. Multi-provider, usage of multi-provider will improve the query performance always. Even if it is single queue, make it as a practice that you will be building a multi-provider on top of it and then use it for reporting. So multi-provider is a virtualization. Using multi-provider, you're going to build up a virtualization layer on top of it and use it for reporting. So when you fire a query, it triggers multi-provider split the query into multiple sub-queries, execute them parallelly, and you're deploying parallelism during query execution and improving your query performance, and also enables you to adapt to the new reporting requirements very easily. That's why. Then info cube design is also very, very important. Whenever designing cube, you must use the standards of the cube, one-to-one, same dimension, many-to-many different dimension, reference objects same, identify line item dimensions, modeling of keyword. You remember all this? You got to follow all the standards to design a perfect optimized cube where none of the dimensions in a cube are huge. Huge ante there should be no dimension table where the size of it is more than 20% of the fact table. Appu nee design manchidannata. There should be no cube where the number of records in the dimension table should not go beyond 20% of the fact table. Then your design is good. If the dimension tables sizes are really big, almost equal to the size of fact table, then doesn't really help you in performance. Okay, again this point again is no more valid into HANA because the designing aim level. In HANA, straight away fact table connects to SI tables, no dimension table at all. Mottham schema marpindi. Okay, fact table will connect directly to SI tables, no more dimension tables. Since there are no more dimension tables, no analysis at all. Idi dimension ke ella daniki panchayati ledhu. That's all gone. Okay. Next, repairing of, you got this point, but still it is valid now. The standards are still valid till today. Okay. Repairing info objects. Now when I say repairing info objects, it's like this. Say for example, I have a cube. and I've loaded millions of data. Okay, and for some reason I wanted to delete my data and then reload it. There are some errors and then I want to reload. And generally, what do you right click on the cube? You say delete data. It will ask you two options. Do you want to keep data in the dimensions or yes or no? Say for by mistake I said yes, and then I went through and I loaded new set of data. Means there are some dimension IDs in the dimension table which are not used in the fact table now. I load some completely new set of data. The old millions of dimension IDs which are there in the dimension table are not really used in the fact table. Yes or no? Unnecessarily my dimension table size is big, but those dimension IDs are not referenced in the fact table, right? So now let's say as part of housekeeping activity, I'll have to do this way. I'll have to take a cube, identify all the unused dimension IDs in it and delete them. Take a cube, find out those dimension IDs in a dimension table which are not being referenced into my fact table. Then why do I need those dimension IDs in the dimension table? Is it not occupying more space? So deleting out those unused dimension IDs can be handled by RSRV. If you go to the T code, so I'm deleting this data in it. Yes, what element? Under there is data in the dimensions. Okay. Now if I see, but there is no data in the fact tables. /BAC/D cube name. One అనుకో. అవ్వడు ఎత్తేసిన లోడ్ చేసినాము లేదబ్బా. ఎందుకు క్వశ్చన్ ఏమనింది అన్నాడా? ఎస్ అన్న ఇంకేం డేటాను లోడ్ కాలేదు మేము చేస్తాం. Okay, so I still have the dimension now. Okay, now they say now there is a cube here, it contains a dimension ID where it is not used in the fact table. Now what I'll do, a lot of tests into this which can do lots of tests in the systems. Test transaction data, entries not used in the dimension of an info cube. You can right click on this and say description. You can read the information about the test. But you drag this, expand what is my cube, y sales, and what is the dimension. I want to check for a second dimension, say transfer and say execute. This will perform some test and there's some warning and say what correct error. Done. Like this, you can delete some unused dimension IDs. There will be lots of tests you can do, some checking about a lot of inconsistencies in the cube. You can check the fact and dimension table relationship. You can do lots of testing on this. Yeah.
How did you get on that screen?
RSRV is a T code. Next is query designer. Now, while designing query itself, what is it you can do? Okay. First thing is, do you know about restrictions? You right click on categories, you can do include or exclude. but they say don't use exclude, prefer using include, suppose. Because if you use exclude, it does not you leverage the indexes built on your cube. Generally we build index on the cube to improve performance, but if you use exclude, exclude will not refer to the indexes of my cube, so prefer using includes in the restriction while designing query. Next, reduce the result set of the query as much as possible. అంటే మనం తగ్గిలేంలే, but the concept is at least in the initial view of the query have less records. Then later let my user do a drill down on top of it. How can you reduce the result set of a query? He says I'll put more into free characteristics. Obviously the result set will be done. Later let my user drill down on what he needs. Okay. నాకు ఇలా ఉంది boss. I have a cube with two regions, south and north. I've got region column. And I've got a column called material. There are 1 lakh materials, suppose. And there are lots of characteristics. What I've done, I'm designing query. I put metal number into the rows. I put everything into free characteristics. Will it reduce the result set of the query? You'll still get millions because there are 1 million materials. So each record will be one material. So you'll get 1 million records. It's not about moving more number of characteristics into free characteristics. It's about placing only those characteristics which has got less cardinality, less distinct values of it. Will be into the rows like region, like say company code. ఏదానికైతే తక్కువ వాల్యూస్ ఉంటాయో 5 10 అలాంటి క్యారెక్టరిస్టిక్ రోస్లో పెడితే నీకు 5 10 రోసే వస్తుంది రిజల్ట్. లెట్ యూజర్ బిల్డ్ ఆన్ లేటర్ వెన్ యూ వాంట్స్. ఓకే బాస్, సో వీ షుడ్ ఆల్వేస్ ప్లాన్ ఇట్ దట్ వే. దెన్ దెర్ ఇస్ అ కాన్సెప్ట్ కాల్డ్ వర్చువల్ క్యారెక్టరిస్టిక్ అండ్ వర్చువల్ కీవర్డ్. మీకు అంత అవసరం లేదు, బట్ no one uses it. Okay. There's some, when you say virtual characteristic keyword, you'll have, let's say virtual keyword was, you'll have keyword in the cube, but in the update rules you will not fill it at all, and in the query you'll be just using that query key figure normally, and the runtime of the query by using enhancement RSR 00002 you'll be filling the value for the key figure. Okay. సో దిస్ విల్ ఇట్ ఎఫెక్ట్ మై క్వెరీ పర్ఫార్మెన్స్? మా క్యూబ్లో ఉంటే తెచ్చేదే బరువు, మళ్ళీ రన్ టైంలో యూ హ్యావ్ మిలియన్స్ ఆఫ్ ట్రాన్సాక్షన్స్ ద క్యూబ్ అండ్ యూ గోట్ ఫిల్ ఎవ్రీ వాల్యూ రన్ టైమ్ అండ్ దెన్ గెట్ ద రిజల్ట్స్. డస్ ఇట్ ఎఫెక్ట్ క్వెరీ పర్ఫార్మెన్స్? సో వీఆర్ నాట్ సపోజ్ టు యూ డోంట్ యూజ్ ఇట్. ఓకే, వీ కెన్ హ్యావ్ అదర్ వర్క్ అరౌండ్స్. ఓకే, బట్ నా క్వశ్చన్, వై షుడ్ ఐ ఫస్ట్ లెట్ డిస్కస్ వై డూ ఐ నీడ్ వర్చువల్ కీవర్డ్స్? You can have keyword in the cube and do while loading, right? Then why are you not filling while loading? Then why are you filling at the query runtime and then using it? Not calculation. Say my requirement. If I store my keyword into my cube, it gives me fact. I want to see the latest values. So at the runtime of the query, I would like to fill my latest values of my price or something into the keyword which is in my queue. Right? Now, can I still achieve that by using my key figure as attribute of metal number? Yes or no? If I make price as an attribute of metal number and then it keeps overwriting, gives me latest price. But in the reporting, can I use this price into my calculations? Can I use my price, which is an attribute of metal number, into calculations? Yes, by using formula variable with replacement path. Yes or no? I can go with formula with replacement, but if I need to do this, I need to have metal number into the rows. Yeah, that's so. I don't want to have metal number into the rows, but still want to leverage my price into calculation. Then I can achieve with virtual key figure. So it will really degrade your query performance. To overcome with this, what you'll do? You'll make price as an attribute. Make sure you bring the metal number into the rows. That's it. Or you can go with exception aggregation. You have property exception aggregation and say price with summation reference to metal number and width. I can also do that. Okay, boss. Yeah. So we can overcome with this. Okay. Same way, virtual characteristic, you'll have characteristic in the cube, but you'll not feed while loading. At the runtime, you'll be filling in. So don't use this 100%. Reduce usage of ABAP code as much as possible. Where do you use ABAP a lot in a query? Customer exits, reduce it, logic. Okay. Reduce usage of exceptions. What is exceptions? Providing alerts onto the report that actually degrades. If you really need it, use it. It's not about using in every query. That's where in the real time, only in major queries where you're showing profitable analysis, profit margins, there use exception, that too on the result, not in the entire column also. Okay. And can I use this concept? Use more variables in the BEX query. So I'm showing some sales data. I'll give if I give variable only on company code, if we select some company code, it is going to read all data of this company code. Many times it happens that user gets lot of data in the report, then they try to filter manually what they want, they get to see what they want. Instead of reading all data, then he filters what he wants. Why don't we give him more flexibility in the variable screen itself, where he can choose exactly the data what he wants, region, country, company code, cost center, so you can just choose what you will see 19 to 20 variable screen, okay, very big selection screen. So you can exactly go in and select exactly what he needs instead of rather than fetching all database. Okay, so these are points you can think on creating a query or modeling this. Next is compression. We already been doing compression, but you never knew what you were doing. Already మన compression చేస్తుంటాం కదా, but మనకు తెలియదు ఏం చేస్తుంటాం. I'll show you this, then I'll go with the read. It's a simple aspect. ఇది మీ బ్యాచ్ కదా, ఏదో వన్ అన్నా ఓకే, నాకు క్యూబ్ కావాలంతే. Yesterday did we load the cube with SPO? Only I'm making sure there's some duplicate data, so you'll get the benefits of it. So look at this cube now. This is my database. I know I've got each order three times, okay, because I've just loaded the same data 3 times here. Okay. Okay, my look at the requirement. Now if okay, and filter this only for January. Only for January month. Look at this. This is the 3. How many? 12 records are there. 12 January. What the records? Total number of records are 12. Yeah. Sorry, ఇది వేరే క్యూ, అది వేరే క్యూ. మిడిల్ నేమ్ కదా మంత్ అనేది. ఓకే, ఏదన్నా వైసేల్స్ కదా. So I get this data as one record. See how many records are there in the queue? 12. But 12 records are grouped as one record here because of the aggregation here. I want to see the statistics, and if I go to read time is 0.02. It is reading 12 records and giving us one record for me. Okay, boss? Now my question is, when I observe these 12 records, I see, observe these 3 records. Look at these 3 records. If I look at these 3 records, all my characteristics, like say country is same, product number is same, customer number is same, month is same, document number is same, year is same, unit is same, INR. Means I see there are 3 records with all characteristic combinations being same there. I know measures can be different anytime, but I see these characteristics being same. Instead of storing as 3 records, why don't I represent like this? India, P101, CNet, January 101, 2013, EN, INR, 15,000 and 360. Why did I store like that? Yes or no? Why don't I group my records? Why don't I aggregate those records up? And look at this combination. Same way. Look at this next combination. There are multiple records with same characteristic combinations. Now my question is, why it is not my question is, why it is not aggregated them as single record? Why it is storing as 3 records? Excellent. Because of the request ID being different. Sorry, I want Jan. So January, I had an order number of all this, but all these 3, each record belongs to different request ID. That's why it is not grouping it. Okay, but if I eliminate this request ID, now can I say it's all one? If I eliminate this request ID, can I start grouping them? That is compression. So when you basically compress the request in a queue, it will delete the request ID information about every record and sets the request ID as 0. Then starts comparing the records. If all, comparing records by comparing all the characteristic combinations. Characteristic and internal dimension keys, yes or no? If I see 2 records with same characteristic, in other words, 2 records have got the same dimension keys, it is going to aggregate them and then put that into one more fact table called E table. Actually, cube will have 2 fact tables, one is F and E. So before compression, it will be into F, and after compression data will go into E table. So when you do reporting on the cube, will it fetch from F or E? Both, union of F and E. Ante, let's say I have 3 requests in the queue. I have compressed. All the data will be in which table now? E table. Now I load a new request to my queue, but I have not yet compressed. Will this new data also will come for reporting? Yes, because it is getting union of F table content as well as E table content. That is logic. Okay, boss? What is compression? Yeah, basically when you keep loading data to the cube, it gets into the F table. When you compress the cube, if it finds in multiple records with same characteristic combinations and request ID being different, it deletes the request ID information and aggregate those records where the characteristic combinations are matching or where the dimension keys are same and puts that into what? E table. And once compressed, you will not have any request ID, it will be 0. Okay, boss? So I'm going to compress this cube. Complete data is moved to E. Okay. Now I can see this table. I have not yet compressed, right? So I am trying to see that in what? What is this? F table. So you have all those records in which table? F table. And I have not yet compressed even once yet. So if I go to my what? 0. So it means what? Not yet compressed bus. You can see this compression status in queue, whether these requests are compressed or not. Okay. Before compression, do you know which record belongs to which request? Yes or no? You got to be logical for something. So suppose if I go here, if I select the topmost request and say compress, it will compress this request and also all the requests below it. But if I select 5493 and then compress, then what? It will compress only 5493 and 600. It does not do this. These data will be in F table, this data will be in E table. So it brings combination. Even though you don't compress, data will still come for reporting. No issues. Go to collapse. How do you compress? Collapse. This step there is, but you didn't know what was happening. 54. Latest is what? I want to compress all the requests, so I take the latest request and say what? Release. Step there is in the mundu kuda. Okay. Yeah. And you no more correct checkbox will be shown only for inventory cubes, not for this. Only non-cumulative cubes. Compression. If it is compressed, you'll have all data in what? I loaded 49, 49, 14. Same data 49, 49, 49 as 147. And when I compress those records, 49. Wantedly, I load same duplicated data. Okay, good. And will you have any data in the F table? No data was, right? Now if you go and see my content for my queue, let's see the content now. So when I see content, will it show F table or E table? Both. Content rendered, it shows data from both the tables. Again, see, where is request ID? Request ID is deleted. No, now you don't know which record belongs to which request. Now let's me. Now how many records do you see for January? So it is aggregated like document number 1 is 5,000, 5,000, 5,000 is 15,000, 15,000 and 360. Correct? Will it improve query? Logically, if you think on, will it improve performance of your queries? Yes. This is compression. Okay. Now if you run the this F table is reading 0.07 and E table is what? 0.006. Go there. And how many records are read? 4 records. And how many records it is? అంటే డేటా వాల్యూమ్ తక్కువ, your data volume is really less. There is some steps which needs to be performed whether data is 10 records or 5 records. Those time you cannot say. But when you see huge data, you'll see the difference exactly. And now I want to load again. And if I'm loading again, the document order number 1001 should get with one more 5000. My query should show 20,000 or what? Let me put order number also into this. For order number 1001, it shows 15,000 or 20,000. I load again, right? Same 49 records, I load again. So is it now? But I have not compressed it. But is it still coming for reporting? That's important. So if it is compression, even if you don't compress it, the data will still come for reporting. Only thing is performance wise, it might have to aggregate the records. Of course. How to compress again? 5946. I can go there. And this checkbox with zero eliminations and a checkbox. Now what does this do? For example, I have a record in the cube like this. I have got one record as 1000. One record as minus 1000, but both the characteristic combinations are same. When you aggregate, what happens? 0. So after aggregating, and when I'm moving records to E table, if I find any records with all key figures as 0, do you need that record? That is 0. If you enable the checkbox, when you do compression, once it aggregates records, if it finds multiple records with all its keywords being zeros, those records will be deleted out. Okay, boss? కావలసే పెట్టుకోవచ్చు లేదా అవసరం అట్లా. ఓకే బాస్, అర్థమైందన్న? బట్ డస్ ఇట్ రియలీ మేక్ సెన్స్ ఫర్ రికార్డ్ టు బీ ఇన్ ద క్యూ వెన్ ఆల్ ద keywords are zeros, boss? No, right? Now this this checkbox tells you it's compressed, boss. Again 4 records, but the value is what? Again it's aggregated into that. That is compression. Clear on this? Good. Now, okay. Now, okay. I just want to delete out this data. Means I just load that 5,000. I want to remove. So after I remove, again I should see value as what? 15,000. Good. Select this. How to delete a request? Select this request. Then do what? Idana? Call. Can I do deletion by request in the queue? Yes. And logically చెప్పాలన్న ఆన్సర్. Once the queue is compressed, now I would like to delete a request.
No, request is zero.
Once the compress is done, you don't have requested information, so requested is set to 0. Now you don't know which record belongs to which request. That's why it doesn't allow you to do request based deletion. Podu. Only delete entire data or selected deletion. That is the only thing you can pause. Okay, boss. That's why to be on the safer side, what they do in the real time, they will not compress the cube immediately, boss. Okay, they'll compress only the request which is older than 7 days or 10 days. Okay, limit పెట్టుకుంటారు. ఎందుకంటే suppose the request has come in today, immediately if I compress, now someone comes, it's the error మళ్ళీ delete చేయలేము పంచాయతీ కాబట్టి. 10 days వరకు పెడతాము, అందరికి కూడా ఇష్యూలు రేజ్ చేయలేదంటే ఇబ్బంది లేదన్నట్టు. So we don't compress the request as soon as it comes in. We'll compress only those requests in the queue which have come in 10 days back. That automatic collapse. Instead of me giving request ID, I can say select this, calculate request ID. Only compress those requests that are older than it will be apply changes. If you compress it will not see this rate is not, it's not fixing to this request. It will only collect those requests which has come into this queue 10 days back, and only those requests are compressed. Okay, boss?
This can be configured in the process chain?
Yes. Same screen you will get in the processing. Okay, boss? Done? If it is 3.x, suppose if the request is, there is some problem with the request, I would like to cancel this request. In 3.x data flow, we have option called request reverse posting and generally if you icon ఇక్కడ మనకు లేదు, ఇన్ఫో పేజ్ లేవు, బట్ దీనికి ఉంటుందో ఉండదు. We had a small icon here which says request reverse posting. So when I do this, what happens? Data from PAC will again come back to what? Will again come back to cube with all its keywords with the negative reverse symbol. Suppose you loaded with 1000. Now when you do request reverse posting, the record will come as -1000, and then again compress it. What is it I'm doing? I am reverting back the changes what this request has done. So I could have done the request reverse posting. Let's say I would like delete one request first. I'll go to the monitor of that request and say request reverse posting. So the data of this request from PS will again load to my queue again with reverse values with all keywords multiplied with -1. 1000 ఉంటే -1, -1000 ఉంటే +y అట్లా పోయి it reverts back. Again when I compress this request, you're reverting back to the changes what it was before loading this request. We had that option, right? But if it is 7, what we can do, because we cannot do that with 7 flow. One option, what you can, I think a rare scenario where you want to cancel out some requests, what you can do is, say you're loading from a data source. You're loading from some data source, let's say. Delete out all other requests except the request what you have the failure in the data source. So if I do DTP with full, will that request gets loaded? In the data source I got R1, R2, R3, R4, R5. I deleted R1, R2, R3, R4. Only R5 is left out. Now if I do DTP with full, will this R5 request goes? Yes. Now again format one more transformation with what? With -1 and then load. Anta lekpoina from the same cube we can connect to this cube. Generally what they do, they from this cube we connect to the same cube, load those records again. While loading in, you can specify if there's any selection, like say if I know every request is for 1 month. Now current request will be of which month? Let's say July. Load, connect the same cube to the same cube, run the DTP with selection as month equal to July 2015. July date is extracted from this cube and loads again, but in the loop back transformations I'll have all keywords as -1 into -1 into -1 into -1. So am I cancelling back the data what is loaded with July into that cube? I can also do that. Much scenario was I can put this in the profile. We had something called FEP and finance exposure planning, and we had a scenario was etlante chudu boss. They were using some IP integrated planning for all the planning. Adi important kaadu. What I do is there is a system where all I have got actual data was. I need to extract all the actual data into my actual cubes and keep it ready. That is what the base. They're going to use this actual data as base and then do generate plan data, then put the plan data into planning cube. That is all done in the planning. I am least bothered about how they are doing planning. As a BW consultant, my responsibility was only to bring in actual data into cube. In concept. Okay, Navas? Then he asked me, and I don't want. When will the data come? When I run my info pile, or I can automate that with project chain. So this planning is done on every 5th day of a month. 15th day of a month it runs in. So one day just before, let's say they announce the plan open. Okay, volume planning is open. Then there should be some person who triggers this project chain, which will get all the actual data and loads it to my cube. Then they start doing planning and then comes out. And 1 month, so this chain will run only once in a month, right? So what happens is 1 month when they tried to run this chain, it had failed, saying inactive transformations and failing. Why? Because from previous month to this month, they have done some changes and moved to production that has affected this cube. We don't know who had done changes, which has affected, what is affected, we don't know, but it has failed. And that was a inactive in transformation. Then what I have to do, I have to activate transformations and then move. But can I activate them in production directly? No. What again? I will do development in development box, I will do transporting into quality ante sarle antaru. Because users got picture ante worldwide users are waiting to plan boss. నేను ట్రాన్స్ఫర్మేషన్ యాక్టివేట్ చేస్తా ante vaadu oppukodu. సో ఇంకా extreme important case అయితే they open the production system and they activate manual, but who will never accept. యూజర్స్ ఏమో ఓపెన్ చేయవా అంటుంటారు, ఈ బిడులు హెడ్ ఏమో వద్దయా అంటుంటాడు, బికాస్ ఎత్తిపోతే వాడు ఎత్తిపోతాడు. సో అలాంటి కేసు ఉంది కదా. సో దిస్ వాజ్ అ ప్రాబ్లమ్ వీ హ్యాడ్ ఇన్ 1 month. సో దేర్ లాట్ ఆఫ్ ఎస్కలేషన్ ఇన్ దిస్. It was not escalation, it was escalation on us, and also the person who was actually responsible for making the data ready. There was one person who was solely, his job is to get the data ready for planning. That is what his responsibility. Then he said, then after the escalation was done, we somehow handled it. Then we had a discussion. Can we do something here to make sure we don't have this escalation again? అంతే కదమ్మా, ఇవ్వడం ఒకసారి దెబ్బ తింటాం, మళ్ళీ తిన్నాం కదా. So can we do something here so that we don't have this problem again? Then he asked, I said we cannot really guarantee, because the load runs for every 1 month, and what changes we've gone through we cannot really check every time, because there are a lot of cubes, not one cube, there are a lot of cube gets in. Only when the chain runs in we get to know what is a problem. Okay, then what I want to do, okay, then let's do one thing. My planning runs on 15th day of a month, right? What I'll do, 3 days before or 2 days before, I'll run the chain. User will run the chain. If it goes smooth, it's fine. So we are ready to run the load on next day. But if it gets failure, then I'll report it to you. You fix the issue. So we have a time lap of 2 days. We can solve the problem. If there's any issue, we can fix these issues within this 2 days. That is his target.
The chain is run twice then.
He says I'll run the chain now. Before 2 days of the planning, and to check whether my chain is ready, good or not. If it fails, I'll raise your ticket. You'll fix the issue. If it's all fine, it's fine. That's what he says. And then ఇష్టాసన లోడ్ చేసి కదరా, this is a complete full load, because every month you go load with some selection. Ante my target, because my target was cube. So you got now July, I'll use June data for planning. So there is dynamic selection in the info package. If I trigger it now, it will load all my June data. If you trigger again on 15th, again June data will come. Will it not duplicate? Yes or no? But he says, no, if you do that, you will get duplicate data. Then you do something, but I want this. Arthamendana requirement. సేమ్ డేటా రెండు సార్లు లోడ్ చేయవచ్చు. ఒకసారి డెమో ట్రయల్ రన్, ఒకటి ఒరిజినల్ రన్. ఓకేనన్నా. బట్ ఇఫ్ ఐ డూ వానికేమో ట్రయల్ రన్, ఒరిజినల్ రన్ వానికి బాగానే ఉంటుంది, మనకు మాత్రం క్యూబ్లో డేటా డబుల్ అయిపోయింటుంది. హౌ విల్ హ్యాండిల్ దిస్ కేస్? గాట్ దిస్? హౌ విల్ యూ హ్యాండిల్ దిస్? దిస్ వాజ్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్ ఆఫ్ దిస్. హౌ విల్ హ్యాండిల్ దిస్? యూనిట్ కొడతాం, వితౌట్ డేటా కొడతాం. ఎప్పుడు మన ట్రయల్ అవుట్కే వాడు కొడితే వితౌట్ డేటా కొడతావు, నువ్వు కొడితే విత్ డేటా కొడతావు. సిస్టమ్ కట్టి తెలుసు నువ్వు కొట్టినా వాడు కొట్టినాడు కదా. సో కెన్ ఇట్ డూ దిస్? వాట్ విల్ ఇట్ ఇస్, వీ హ్యాడ్ ప్రాసెస్ చైన్ ఆటోమేటెడ్ స్టెప్స్. ఏంటంటే ఎవ్రీ టైమ్ ఐఎమ్ లోడింగ్, ఫస్ట్ ఐ గాట్ ద సేమ్ క్యూబ్ కనెక్టెడ్ టు ద సేమ్ క్యూబ్, connected to the same cube. We'll be running the DTP with transformations into -1. We'll be running the DTP for the previous month, June month. So every time what happens, it takes June data from that cube to this same cube again with the negative values and sends in. Suppose the June data is already loaded in the trial version, on the original run, it'll take the same June data, loads into the same cube within -1, then cancels out all the June data what is already loaded. Enna? అయిపోయింది కదా. దెన్ లోడ్ ఫ్రెష్ జూన్ డేటా అగైన్ టు క్యూబ్. 2 steps. Load data from cube to cube in the same month. If there's something, it gets loaded with negative values, invert values. Then load normal June data again. Ante. Is my problem solved? So I'll have one DTP loading from cube to cube with the invert values of the current month and the previous month, and another DTP loading from source to my cube with current previous month data. So I'm cancelling, if there's any previous month data in the cube, I'm cancelling it out and loading new set of previous month data into my queue. Can you think on this? Arthamendana point?
So he loads data once in the PC.
He'll just trigger process chain. I've got all those into my process, which will do what? Cube to cube with previous month selection in the transformation of data as -1. So cancels out, if there is data for June, it cancels out all the June data. Again, normal DD which extracts from source and loads it to my cube with new June data. Okay. Now compression. Now I think it should be okay. And now how many fact tables will I have in the cube now? Now I'm opening up another fact table F and E. When we load data into cube, it goes into what? F table. When we compress, it deletes the dimensionality key and the aggregates the records and puts or based on the characteristic value combinations and puts them into what? E table. And when we do reporting, cube gets from F and E both, union of F and E. And once compression is done, we cannot delete data based on request wise. We can solve this problem by request reverse posting, that was old. But now we'll be doing selective deletion or do minus ones, revert values here. In collapse tab, we have we can only specify the request. When you specify some request and compress it, compress that request and also compress below it also. Then the checkbox called with zero elimination. What happens? Once it is compressed, if it finds any record with all its keywords being zeros, those will be deleted. This is compression. Now tomorrow we'll get into other performance tuning. So compression will improve what? Performance of your query space.